President, on the 16th of May, we lost a great Australian, perhaps one of our most iconic Labor heroes, the Honourable Robert J. Hawke AC. He was the first Prime Minister I ever knew, coming to office just a month after I was born in 1983. And despite my parents' more conservative leanings, I remember vividly my mum telling me to come and watch the TV the night Keating beat him on his second challenge, telling me what a historic moment I was witnessing. It was lost on my 9-year-old self. After joining the party, I read still more about Hawke, searching for answers in those dark Howard years. I still firmly believe they showed us the key to success for a Labor government, a central focus on improving the lives of working people, but unafraid of approaching it in innovative ways. A broad policy agenda that was clearly explained to the Australian public and not by talking down to them. And a strong, well-rounded cabinet team with a range of voices. He stood up to racism. While the tension in his relationship with his incredible treasurer, the Honourable Paul Keating, was well documented, that unique partnership formed the foundation of one of, if not the greatest, Labor governments. The Accord, Medicare, superannuation, dramatically increasing education outcomes, wide-ranging and numerous reforms to open up our financial systems, and a large number of programs to genuinely address social disadvantage and poverty. Implementing just one of these would have been enough to seal their place in history, but all of this and more shows us just how historic the Hawke-Keating government and political partnership was for our country and for our movement. On a global scale, the Hawke-Keating governments provided the model that was built upon by other Labor and centre-left governments around the world. Bill Clinton in the US and Tony Blair in the UK, who both paid tribute to Bob Hawke upon his passing. I remember from a 2010 visit to the UK where we were told the story of Tony Blair and Gordon Brown travelling to Australia in the early 90s to discover the secrets of this moderate yet innovative Labor government down under. Perhaps his greatest love was for the Australian people, and they adored him back. It was a love that continued for decades after he left office. Several years ago, I was at the SCG watching the cricket test. We spotted Hawke sitting as a guest of the Trust, sipping on a middy. He looked quite flat, not quite melancholy, and it clearly wasn't a result of what was going on in the cricket. It was a short time later we heard a roar from the bay seats in front of the Old Hill. We soon found out it was for Hawke, infamously sculling a beer amongst the crowd. He looked positively jubilant. Few of the cheering mob around him would have been old enough to vote for him. Some were not even born when he was PM. But they continued to have a genuine affection for the man who epitomised so many values we hold dear as Australians. Bob Hawke exhibited so many of the aspects of leadership we talk about today. He was collaborative and sought to find consensus even amongst the most diverse interests. He was innovative, yet kept a laser focus on the basics of government. He adapted to the communications medium of the day. Indeed, John Howard noted after his passing that he had mastered the art of the TV interview. But most of all, he was authentic. There is so much talk about the need for authenticity in modern politics. Hawke could not have been a greater example. His love of a drink, or perhaps one too many, was well known. He shared his own daughter's struggle with drugs, showing that every family has its own struggles. He shed a tear, even against his own staff's advice, showing how he responded not only as Prime Minister, but also as a human being to his own hardships and to the tragedy of others. He found a way of communicating his shortcomings to the public, and they loved him for it. Bob Hawke was undoubtedly a Labor hero, not only because he spent his life serving our broader movement and our great party, but because he achieved lasting change for Australians, especially working people. Vale Robert J. Hawke. It is too simplistic to list your legacy as a series of policy achievements, impressive as they are. Know that you will continue to inspire so many of us for the rest of our lives.